meteorologist Casey Cloud back here with us at the top of the hour. I know we had some technical difficulties, but we're back now. Still watching that flash flooding there around Valdosta. A nasty situation there for those folks. The rain rates are dropping some though, so that's good, but I've just had so much rainfall here lately in toward this area that I was talking about earlier on. I mean, going back into yesterday, some of these areas getting around 20 inches of rain, which is just extraordinary, very serious stuff, obviously. So, not what you want to see there as we're looking towards some of these different communities. I mean, even getting a report here too. We talked about a road underwater, a Stacks Road, and then also the Withlacoochee River there around and above Valdosta around the Skipper Bridge Road area has a flood warning continuing to November 10th now, as we're looking valid technically at November 8th at 4 a.m. But again, that's some information coming on in. So again, really just watching that river threat there in play because we're just kind of seeing things here in terms of the rainfall amounts just so heavy and just so problematic here towards some of these spots and causes danger because the water just can't have any place to run off at this point. It's just the grounds are just so saturated, and I mean, this is all in the gray zone, at least 5 inches of rain, but some areas have seen much more than that as we're looking, as we've talked about, some areas getting upwards of 20 inches, which is really bad news, obviously. You just can't really support that. We're already talking about Helene to happen. This, event, especially yesterday, but even adding into it today, I mean, gotta be some of the worst flooding Valdosta's seen in many years. I mean, just not what you want to deal with, obviously, as we're tracking things, as we're tracking the situation. So, just got to remember to turn around, don't drown. I know it's at night here that we're dealing with all this. Even though the rain rates are dropping in a lot of areas, this is still adding insult to injury here in spots. And then as I zoom out, you do see here some heavy downpours to the south. We'll watch to see if any of that action kind of coalesces to require some more flash flood warnings. Hopefully not, but it's not out of the question here. So, again, just continuing to track this situation, continuing to monitor it here, and we're trying to keep you safe. It definitely has weakened over the last little bit, so that's a positive sign with the overall scenario here as we make sure we continue to watch. So let me go ahead and kind of loop this around. You can see how heavy that was a little while ago. We've started to see a reduction in those rainfall rates, meaning a reduction in the accent where we have the reds on the screen, a wide red facet, which indicate heavy downpours. Kind of goes to yellow, and then it's starting to get more to green now in a lot of Valdosta, which is good. A dark green, so it's still raining, but and it's a situation though where it's probably getting slightly better now. Not really quickly better though, with at least a constant drip of rain, but definitely going to be improving. Some of these areas a little bit further off toward the south and west are still getting it pretty bad. I mean, when you see that one report down here, I'll pause it. I mean, a report of a road underwater, so that's not going to be improving too much yet because that rain's still pretty heavy there. But Valdosta proper is looking a little bit better now there in toward Lowndes County. I mean, they've had just so much rain, so I mean, we'll see 1 hour and this, may not do it justice exactly, but I mean, we're talking about some of these areas here, 3-4 inches, and I'll go to our 1 hour product on our other mode here, and then I may want to go to storm total, which will kind of get us a few hours back per se. I mean, this is showing a few inches of rain in the worst, hardest hit areas. I mean, this technically, when I queried it, it said more like an inch and a half to 2, but it's been heavier than that. I mean, this is showing 3 to 4 here during today's event, but again, really probably getting closer to 20 inches between yesterday's event and today's event. So maybe around 5 today, give or take, with what we've been seeing, 5, 6 inches, something, 7 inches, something like that. So not what you want to deal with. That's in the areas that get the heaviest and highest rainfall totals. I know we were starting out earlier on, there was flooding reported on Ashley Street there in downtown Valdosta, so that's not what you want to see, obviously, as you're looking toward Lowndes County, as you're looking toward that zone there. So, again, just something to kind of be mindful of as we look at some of these different communities here. I know there's a flood watch still in play until later on tonight for areas of like Jefferson, Madison, Brooks, Lanier, Lowndes, and Thomas counties. So they're going to be watching, it goes until, I think 1 a.m. is when it goes until, as we kind of look at things. So this kind of storyline there. This kind of storyline there. Let me go ahead and kind of look at some things with that just to double check. Yeah, 1 a.m. is when they have that for the expiration set there. Something to kind of keep in mind as we're dealing with the situation. As we just have had so much moisture towards some of these zones here. With this, the official warning goes to 11. I think we're getting a lot, better space though. Of course, we'll have our formal update later tonight, late tonight, late Thursday, early Friday update. As we'll be looking ahead toward that Veterans Day forecast and the like, where it should be drier here. Some areas haven't not got much rain around, but others have been just inundated. But it should be drying out for those areas that have been seeing all this rain. So that's some good news, but you're just going to have to deal with the aftermath of all this here at this point. And we had Hurricane Helene come through. A lot of folks still with blue tarps on the roof there and the like. So that's definitely problematic as we're tracking the situation, as we try to keep you informed on all that. I know, by the way, for what it's worth there, a high surf advisory in play for parts of the Big Bend region, current threat still. We have Raphael toward the south. And let me go ahead and look at some things. I know I'll kind of say here, the infrared satellite. This is one view of it. Let me see if I might need to switch it since our computer reset. Yeah, I do need to switch that to a better mode on there. And you can just see, indirect influence of that around here even, and toward parts of our area. So that's obviously not what you want to see, not what you want to deal with as we're kind of looking at things, as we're kind of giving you the very latest. Definitely problematic there in nature as we, have that influence. Let's put on the water vapor. You can see some of that more moisture aloft coming in off the top per se. Obviously the hurricane's down here. It looks pretty well defined tonight. May make a run at Category 3 again. We shall see, but you can see that moisture fast toward the north here to some degree as we're looking. It's indirect, but it's partially because of Raphael, and that's why we're getting all that moisture around. So kind of a unique here setup, but you think of patterns. We had Hurricane Joaquin several years back. They had terrible flash flood in South Carolina. That was indirect, not directly from Hurricane Joaquin, but indirectly, and we had many fatalities from that. As we're looking at things with the overall meteorological pattern, again, just trying to keep you safe and informed here. Just trying to keep you up to date as we're tracking things. And you see the pressure with the hurricane down there. The isobar is tightly packed, but then you get further up and they're loosely, they're not together. They're not loosely clustered here, or they are loosely clustered here. They're not tightly packed. As we're looking at things, as we're tracking them. Thunderstorms possible. That's the latest outlook on that. And that light green, of course, there's a severe risk that's more formal back to the west. There's a severe thunderstorm watch, even a severe thunderstorm warning there as we're looking toward areas around. As I zoom in there, you see parts of areas south of Abilene, northeast of San Angelo. But let's get back to our flash flood warning that we're on the air for right now. Important, in some of these areas, if the rain's been so substantial, you'll want to make sure you just remember to turn around, don't drown, as the 6 inches of water can knock you down. Even if the water's receding some, it still could be too dangerous to drive through here because of just all the rain that is falling as we're looking back. 20 inches in some spots, which is just, absolutely terrible towards some of these different communities here. It's just not a good situation at all as we're looking towards some of these different spots. So thoughts and prayers to everybody impacted there. As we're looking, of course, Lowndes County, just reminding everybody at home where that is. Let me kind of look here at this, and I'll kind of just say what we're talking. You see in South Central Georgia there, we're based at in Bradford in North Central Florida, but we cover 62 counties. I know we've been on for the tornado warning storms the last 5 years, and then we're tracking all this nasty weather around Valdosta. Just really quick checking the power outage map on poweroutage.us. You wouldn't expect many power outages here because the rain's not going to do it necessarily. You don't have too much wind. There's only 60 customers in the dark right now in Lowndes County. Ware County has 223 customers out. Atkinson County 48. So we haven't had any severe thunderstorm or tornado warnings. We did have some weak rotation that was, not too far off from requiring a tornado warning last night, but didn't quite meet that threshold for that as we were looking north about Austin. We were on the air, we're tracking all that for you last night. But again, nasty situation here. Of course, we've been talking about it. I mean, this is, indirectly from Raphael. And we have some severe weather out toward Texas, and you have further back with this some very nasty winter weather in New Mexico. Some areas, I mean, I was mentioning it earlier. If you weren't with me, it's almost unbelievable. But there's a report, and I have to back this up just a little bit to pull it up. But some of these different reports here, these 18 inches are actually the highest this system will go. Actually, one of these, this one right here, let me put the mouse, you see that little red. Let me take our flash flood warning information off because I'm really confused, folks, keeping that up if I'm looking at New Mexico. But funny that 18 inches there is actually just the highest it shows on the report icon. Actually, a 36-inch total in San Miguel County there in New Mexico, where cows reported waist deep in snow. As I go back even further, you can see how heavy that was earlier on. I mean, that's snow, and we saw it in regular radar, but what a winter storm. I mean, some of that's kind of weaker at this point on the echoes, on the algorithms, on Doppler technology, but still very significant there. And then as you get further back, I mean, Los Angeles, they've had, some terrible wildfires around extremely low dew points to high winds. There we've had Santa Ana winds. I mean, you don't see as much on this mode. Let's go back 4 hours, and there was a little bit more of a situation with the winds, but they've died down some, as you saw on the METAR reports. There weren't as bright of colors on that. I mean, these kind of measure some of the winds. You can see 32 knots earlier on one of these sites, and now I am seeing one around 20 knots, but nothing just as high. I mean, 32 knots, that's right around tropical storm force. But again, just continuing to monitor things here in toward the weather center, trying to give you the very latest here on what's going on. I'm going to get back here toward east and switch it out of winter mode. We have that warning continuing. You see Eccles County, they're getting some pretty heavy rain north of Statenville there. Let me pull that up on the other radar, make sure that's not something that we got to watch over the next little bit. It looks like it is kind of developing and sitting over that area there on Howell. That's more rural, but it's near Moody Air Force Base there. So that could be something that's a little bit of a cause for concern. Not moving fast. We'll see if some of that kind of tries to work its way back in later toward, areas along I-75. This warning goes to 11, so I'm hopeful that, we won't have to go past 11 with a warning, and it's a considerable one already. They may just kind of leave it and hope for the best, but then if a warning has to get issued out here, it may just be more a flood warning, not a flash flood. That's kind of how Jacksonville does it a little bit more, but that'd be their jurisdiction. Jacksonville is over here. Tallahassee's over here. Eccles County, Clinton County, we'll watch, but those aren't in really populated areas with the heaviest rain, and the radar might be obscuring that a little bit. Let me check Tallahassee's view on some of this stuff. I mean, you see some convection to Tallahassee, you see about Austin, you see northern Eccles County, some heavy rain. So that's something to kind of watch for, but I think we're going to wrap it up for now. Again, thanks so much for tuning in here and trusting me. In toward the Weather Center. I know you can go to Facebook, Casey Cloud WX, Cloud Weather there on Facebook. As it's necessary, we'll post up if we're not actually coming on a stream. Twitter /X at Cloud Casey. You have YouTube at Cloud Weather. You have Twitch Cloud Weather, and then cloudweather.com. So a lot of different sources here at your disposal as we try to keep you, your friends, your family safe and informed here. It's been a very treacherous situation. Right off stuff. I'm hopeful, that we'll start to get away from all this heavy rain there. You see all that gray is at least 5 inches with the event, but some areas have actually gotten close to 20 inches or so. That's very significant, very substantive, very problematic. As we look, I'm looking at some of the models behind the scenes, and they generally say some of this kind of breaking up as we get into tomorrow. That's what the models are generally showing, so lower rain chances for tomorrow. But I know we'll have more of it covered later tonight in our full update here, and hopefully we won't have to pop back in before then. But what a nasty event it's been for the Valdosta area with all this rain here lately. You know, it's just significant totals, historic type totals in some of these areas here. And, you know, I bet some of these folks will never forget. I mean, another maybe 5 inches tonight on top of some areas maybe getting around 15 yesterday. So that's very problematic. Real quick, I do see there's a tornado warning in Texas that just popped up, so I'll go ahead and at least tell you about it. As there is a little bit of a threat out there. This one's area south of Abilene. We were looking at a tornado warning storm. Callahan, as well as Coleman and Runnels counties. There's some red indicator rotation around, it looks like areas like a Benoit there, if I'm pronouncing that right. So that's kind of by itself. So that's a little bit of a cause for concern there. I'll have to see if that kind of ramps up into something that gets to be confirmed as we're looking there in the overall meteorological pattern. That's pretty discrete in nature there as we're looking at things. So that's kind of just intriguing. That's not exactly in November, an area we expect to have tornado warnings, but it's a weird pattern. Very warm conditions across a lot of the country here. I mean, not necessarily in New Mexico, granted we're not extremely cold. You have the air masses here to the east warmer, but, you know, sometimes you don't have to be, you know, sometimes when you're right just below 32, you can end up having more moisture around to get more snowfall. So that's kind of interesting. This is a temperature map here. You see 70s, 80s toward Florida and Georgia for the most part. A little bit of upper 60s in North Georgia. But, I mean, this is warm for November. I mean, we're almost to Veterans Day. So I have a feeling at some point we'll probably have some type of, and it's not a guarantee, but when we have the contrast air masses, and we at least try to get cool air to work in, we'll probably have some type of big severe weather threat closer to home eventually. I mean, I'm not sure on the timing of that. It could be, you know, well, many weeks away. It's kind of hard to say. We already had some big severe weather earlier in the week, you know, even just on the Sunday in Oklahoma, but eventually it'll probably just, you have to contrast the air masses. It is supposed to be a wetter and a warmer type of winter around here as we look at some of those outlooks here. I know the Weather Prediction Center and some of those outlooks here that they have as we kind of look ahead and toward the timeline and the like. So kind of interesting to touch on there as we're doing with things, as we kind of try to give you guys an idea here on what's happening. I mean, just trying to let you know here how things could transpire. I know it's always intriguing to do that here. In toward the weather center. Just wanted to pull up some of our outlooks here just to kind of look at these once again here behind the scenes. I mean, just to kind of reiterate what the storyline looks to be here. I mean, I know some portions of the timeline can be a little bit different here, but it's just kind of intriguing to do that. I know, just going over all the details. Sometimes a little harder to pull up when you're when you're looking at stuff on the fly here, but looking at the outlook for the month of November, the rainfall is going to be pretty average down here in the southeast. Granted, I mean, right now, not so much for Valdosta, but it's been very significant. But then above average temperatures, as we're kind of looking at things here, as we're kind of tracking them. Just always interesting to look at some of the seasonal outlooks here from like the Climate Prediction Center and the like. It just kind of gives you a heads up sometime on what could happen. I mean, as we kind of look, I mean, I will say, actually, I kind of double check my work here a little bit. it does look to be a little bit more. It'll be warmer, but it may actually be drier, not wetter, according to what they have. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that. So sometimes, just when we're kind of going through things here, checking the data, I wanted to clarify that. So yeah, warmer winter, but also they actually have drier despite what we're seeing right now. So then, in theory, that could lead to a situation where you might not have as much moisture with storms, but you could still have squall lines coming on through. So just wanted to kind of make sure I clarify that, because when we do this stuff on the fly, I want to make sure I don't misspeak on that. So yeah, warmer and drier winter, not warmer and wetter, but still doesn't preclude some severe weather threats as we look ahead with the contrast of the air masses and the like here, because you are going to get some cold weather. It's not like you're going to be able to go, through winter without temperatures at least getting below 40 degrees some nights. So that means you have to have some contrast of warmer and cooler in general. And that's how you get some severe weather here, low pressures involved, and other storylines here as we're looking at things. So I know, of course, when we say winter, we're, November, December, January, not all winter, but next 3 months, warmer and drier. Of course, not drier around Valdosta. It's been very significant. So you got to kind of focus on the local details here as we look at things on that hyper local level from time to time. So, see if there's any more, questions, comments from anybody at home. Don't see any, but I guess we'll just go ahead and wrap it up for now. We'll be back later on here as we're looking at things. So again, I'm just trying to keep you informed here, informed in all this. Just trying to make sure that you guys have the very latest here on what's happening. I mean, I say November, December, January outlook, and that's, warmer and drier. Well, December, January, and February around here is, warmer and drier. And in January, February, March, warmer and drier than normal, the expectation. But, some days, some weeks will be different, so you just never know. And I know it's just too much rain for Valdosta right now, sadly. I wish this could have spread out a little bit more, because eventually we could have, stuff that's just really too dry around. But Valdosta definitely the opposite of that right now. And thoughts and prayers to everybody impacted by this terrible flood event for the Valdosta area. We'll be back here later tonight with more. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, and of course cloudweather.com. I know you have the interactive radar there, cloudweather.com/radar, to give you guys the very latest. So that's going to wrap it for now. Thanks so much for tuning in and trusting me.